Construction of pattern for Pinafore Bib. In the previous session, we identified the standard body measurements required and made a few calculations for constructing the pattern for a Pinafore Bib. In this session, we will see how to construct the pattern for the Pinafore Bib based on drafting instructions. At the end of the session, you will be able to estimate fabric required for making a Pinafore Bib, construct pattern for a Pinafore Bib. To make a pinafore, we need to make a half skirt and pinafore bib. First, let's see the total fabric required for making a pinafore. As per the measurement chart, the front length is 10.5 inches, skirt length is 17.5 inches, waist circumference is 22 inches, and shoulder width is 12 inches. With these measurements, let's calculate the length of fabric required for making the pinafore. We calculated the total skirt length as 22 inches and the total front length as 11.5 inches. Considering the fabric width is 35 inches, the actual fabric required would be 2 times the total skirt length plus the total front length including all the seam allowances. That is 2 multiplied by 22 plus 11.5 inches, which comes to 55.5 inches. We will round this to 60 inches, which is also 1.5 meters. But since we have already made a half skirt, now here we only need the fabric for making the pinafore bib, which will be the total front length including all seam allowances, that comes to 11.5 inches. We can round this to 15 inches or approximately half meter. In the previous session, we had made calculations for all the parts required for making the pinafore bib. We calculated the total front length as 11.5 inches. Also, we got the neckline as 4 1/8 inch for drafting. We also need the following fractions for drafting purpose. We will need these measurements to construct the pattern for the pinafore bib. Let's see how to draft the pattern for the front and back bib. Draw baseline 0,1 with 11.5 inches. This line represents the fold while drafting on fabric. From point 0, draw a right angle line to the baseline. This is the shoulder line while drafting on fabric. From point 1, draw a right angle line to the baseline. This is the waist line. From point 0, along the shoulder line, measure half of shoulder width, that is 6 inches, and make a mark. This is point 2. From point 2, measure 3 1/4 inches towards the baseline and make a mark. This is point 3. From point 2, draw a right angle line for about halfway into the bodice. Again from point 3, draw a right angle line for about halfway into the bodice. From point 2, measure 1/4 inch down and make a mark. This is point 4. Connect points 3 and 4 in a straight line. From point 0, along the baseline, measure 4 1/8 inches and make a mark for the neckline. This is point 5. From point 5, draw a right angle line until it meets the line drawn down from point 2. The point where these two lines meet is point 8. And the point where this line meets the line drawn from point 3 is point 7. From point 8, measure 3/4 inch towards the baseline and make a mark. This is point 9. Connect points 4 and 9 in a straight line. From point 7, measure 3/4 inch towards the baseline and make a mark. This is point 10. Connect points 3 and 10 in a straight line. Lines 10 3 and 9 4 should be parallel. From point 5, measure 1 inch upwards and make a mark. This is point 6. From point 6, draw a right angle line until it meets the slanted line 310. From point 1, along the waistline, measure 1/4 of the waist circumference, which is 5.5 inches, and make a mark. This is point 11. Then from point 11, measure 1 inch towards the baseline and make a mark. This is point 12. Connect points 9 and 12 in a straight line. Thus we have completed constructing the pattern for the front and back bib for a pinafore. In this session we have learned how to construct pattern for a pinafore bib. Before we conclude, let's take a look at the key steps involved in constructing the pattern for a pinafore bib. Step 1. Draw baseline fold and construct shoulder line and waist line. Step 2. Mark shoulder width and shoulder band for pinafore and mark the shoulder slope. Step 3. Mark the neckline and all the markings for shaping the bib. Step 4. Mark and shape the waistline. With that, we have come to the end of this session.